more kids to go before I have helped 500 kids through college. Wow. Right now I am trying to, I'm helping to getting 40 backpacks full with supplies for inner city kids, not just in LA but across the United States. That's what I like to do because that's what someone did for me.
Very good. Thank you for doing that.
I have a really bad joke I just want to say.
I was saying, how many baby mamas? No.
I thought that was a bad joke.
Oh, not as bad as you think.
Well, I had my questions. Now I would like to turn it over to them. Is there anybody that would like to ask a question? Right back here.
What did y'all think of the remake?
Basically what they're asking is what you thought of the remake.
I didn't see the remake, and it's so funny how everyone just says the remake. No, I just didn't want to see another person play Freddy, and I didn't think it would do justice to the movie that we worked so hard to make. So
You're right.
I'm one of the rare people who can just not see something if I think it's gonna suck.
I didn't like it.
I didn't like it.
I ain't gonna sing no more. I saw the remake. I didn't dislike it.
You did.
Yeah, I didn't get it. It was free. It was free. You didn't go to the screen. It was free food. They had all kinds of food. I saw the remake. I didn't dislike it. I didn't like it because in my philosophy, I think the gentleman who played Freddy did a good acting job. But no one can ever be Freddy more than
Robert forever.
So recently they just did sort of a alternate sequel to Halloween where Jamie Lee Curtis returned. Have they talked about, and if they did talk about, would you be interested in reprising your role as Nancy and coming back for another sequel?
I know that I have a lot of people asking me that same question all the time, so I would say that no one has spoken to me about this movie, whether it's going to happen or if it exists at all. But I do know that when you have played a part your whole life and that's all that you're known for, I don't think anybody would say no to the opportunity to play the part one more time. It's something that it's feel like you own this part in many ways, and that you've made it, you've brought it to life. It's like your baby, and I think it would be a really interesting proposition. Of course, I would entertain that idea if it came along, for sure.
I noticed you didn't ask if we could play the kid. They can't ask us. We 2 doors down from Social Security. But I do think if they did it would be nice if they asked us to be the parents of the kids of the Dream Warriors.
Something, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Like right back here.
Hi guys. I heard that you guys are doing script reading this weekend after this with Robert.
Well,
Yeah.
they're having a staged reading of the Nightmare 3 script in Los Angeles, and
You've done that before? Have you guys
no, it's never been done before. It's the first day of Suicide Prevention Week, and they're raising the money to raise money for a suicide prevention mental health foundation in Los Angeles. This is an idea that Ira Hayden and Rodney Eastman have had for several years. So that was put together, and I tried to persuade everyone to not come to video. I'm sorry. And, so I'm actually flying back, but these guys, they made a contractual obligation, and they're, going to live by that, and I really respect that decision. So It's 100 people, it's not a giant event, so hopefully if it's successful, we'll go forward and maybe do it again, and this time, do it on a day where everybody can take part in it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Right here.
There was Robert Englund had an idea for like a prequel, and he was talking about like something called the Kruger Kills at a Comic-Con I was listening to him at, and I was just wondering if there was any possibility that they could do a prequel, or who would direct it. Wes isn't here anymore, so it's like it's wishing on a star.
I think the ideas for how to bring Freddie back are limitless. There's so many ideas because he lives in our dreams, right? So anybody can have a Freddie. Everyone who breathes can have Freddie in their lives somehow. So, I don't think Freddie will ever die in some ways. I know people always come up with stories, and whether there's people who can buy the rights to Freddie and make a movie and do all that. It's very complicated to make a movie with Freddy Krueger in it. So I think a lot of the fan movies that get made are kind of the embodiment of these exciting ideas that people have. And I really enjoy them. I mean, I've watched several of them on YouTube, and I think maybe that's the way that Freddy lives on the best, is people's own creative imagination about their own dreams.
Thanks.
Now, he mentioned about, of course, with Clive Barker. Just one real quick question. What was it like actually working with Wes Craven? Wes Craven. What was it like working with Wes Craven, working for him?
I had no idea who Wes Craven was when I took the part for Nancy. He was just a pretty regular looking guy, actually. And I had never seen any of his movies, so when I heard that he had done a movie called Last House on the Left, and it was like really horribly violent and just a movie that my mom would never have let me see. I was a little intimidated by the idea that he was going to do something with me and the movie that, I wouldn't be proud of. Like, I didn't know if I was going to like the final product. But then once we started shooting, he let me come to see the dailies every day, and it was so beautiful, and it was obvious it was going to be just this kind of, it was very wholesome, in a lot of ways, the movie was, and yet then you had these terrible deaths, and it was this nice balance of this like not idyllic life, but this really normal teenager life, and then you had this really violent, terrible, horror, and then you had Freddie. And so those three elements really came together beautifully, and after maybe just a week or so, I just loved Wes and trusted him so much, and he was such an artist and had so much kind of deep thinking going on all the time about what he was doing. He was a very concentrated person.
It's actually for all three.
We're directed by Chuck Russell.
That's right.
That's okay, there's a lot of details.
What was it like with working with Chuck?
Well, Chuck is obviously awesome. But there was tension between Wes and Chuck at the time. There was script changes being made. Frank Darabont, who did Shawshank Redemption, was writing with Chuck. So
I don't think Wes came to the set.
I didn't meet him until afterwards. So there was just like the I don't know if you called it the erection, but the sets are being built and the clock was ticking, and it was just a fascinating process that you knew just to kind of come in and deliver, and everybody was doing that under incredibly a lot of pressure. So it was fun. It was fun.
I don't know nothing. I stayed in my dressing room. I didn't know they was having problems until I saw what's that documentary. I didn't know that's when I was having problems. So I didn't know that. I didn't meet Wes until 2 or 3 years after Nightmare on Elm Street. So I didn't know him on the set. I was so happy that I was working, and I come from the South, and they said, don't make waves. and I wasn't trying to make but one wave when they said, go to your dressing room. I went to my dressing room.
All right, here we go. This gentleman right here.
Right, question for all three of you. Which was the most challenging scene that you did, or the scene you had the most fun with?
The most challenging scene for me was in the movies. For me, it was part 4, and it was when I was killed, and I was crying, and Robert and I had a moment, and that's why I was crying. It's just gonna be okay. You're gonna get other roles, and I said, I'm not crying because of the movie. I'm crying because this is my last paycheck. It was the junkyard scene.
The most challenging set for me was when we're in the padded room, and once they started slicing the walls, all those chicken feathers started to fly. And when you go to scream, like, oh, there goes some chicken feathers. You know,
Oh,
so that was like, oh. Yeah, I don't think anybody thought about until it was too late. It was, I can't breathe. That was, and
It looked good though.
yes, it was.
It did look
It is good, but there was a moment there.
sneezing. Yeah, I got it down.
I have to say my death scene in Nightmare 3 was very hard too. And I remember it was technical, and Freddie came, floating in. You're just imagining it, right? Because that's all done after the fact. So you're just kind of making it up in your head. And I always find those scenes are the hardest to do. And Chuck would be like, "Okay, your dad is floating in on a beam of light." I'm like, "What? Where do I look?" And they're like, "Look at that piece of tape, and that's your dad." Those kinds of scenes I've always had a lot of problem with. And then, they put some kind of a blood bag on me or something so that I would bleed when Freddie stabs me. And I remember, I always enjoy the fighting with Freddie. We always have fun. But then afterwards, I had just bought like a new bra, and it was totally ruined by all that sticky red blood, and it wouldn't come out. I was just really mad about it. I'm like, somebody should have told me I was going to be covered in blood today.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Right here.
What about each of your characters was most like your true self?
What?
It is a very nice question. Fucking A. Kelvin gonna get me when this is over with. She's gonna say, you do that. What was the question?
What about each of your characters is identical to your real self?
I just think that that Chuck allowed, and they allowed me as an African American man, black man, to do it from my point of view, but keep the script the way that it was. Because I give homage to them because my character is the first black to ever survive a horror film and return for a sequel. So I always felt that, I was in part 4 because they said, oh shit, we forgot to kill him. Why I got killed so quick? Doing the credits.
Doing the credits.
I don't know, sometimes I feel too similar to Nancy. I want to break free. I think I am most like her in that I really care about everyone else, like, are you okay?
I
I
know.
I do that a lot. And I always feel like unless everybody's happy, like I can't be happy. And so I think, not that Nancy's like that, but she really turned her efforts to saving her friends. Like, he was always her first mission. But what's really interesting in what Wes told me is that you can never really save anybody. You have to save yourself. And so that lesson from Wes is actually something that I keep trying to emphasize. Like, if you take care of yourself, then you're better able to help others. But if you just don't think about yourself and only think about others, then you might not be successful. And I just always thought that was such an interesting point of view. And you know, Wes must have known that about me when he auditioned me, that I cared about other people too much.
I do think that the casting of Nightmare was done perfectly, really. For me, I would probably say addiction. And, you know, thinking, you know, being a badass is a nice cover for not wanting to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pass the mic.
Oh, camera right in the back there.
If you want to talk about alternate sequels, I've already pitched an idea to Jennifer and Ken, so talk to you later. In terms of one-liners, it could be either one from Freddy or any of the other characters. Besides, I think we all know our favorite is Prime Time. But what's another favorite? I mean, for example, mine is, hey kid, ever play Skip the Cat?
I had so many.
He's going.
To me, she looked like a nun. And that's why I'm trying to make this nun cuss. Go to hell, Freddie. I love it. Favorite lines, I will tell you this here when Chuck Russell was telling us the things that we need to say. The phrase fucking A. I had never heard that phrase before. In the hood, when that meant something else. But and I kept telling him, I can't feel fucking A. And he said, well, it means something. He said, what do you think it means? It means fucking ass. That's what it meant in my hood. So again, I'm from the South, so you don't want to make waves. So I kept saying fucking A, and that happened to be every one of you all who come to me ask me to write fucking A.
It's like one of Freddie's taglines that he said. Like, what's one of
Well, welcome to prime time.
Yeah, that one. But he said, aside from that one.
Oh, aside from that one.
Beautiful is that?
Oh, my own.
Yeah, you're beautiful
I'm
and bad.
beautiful and bad. Yeah, I like, I don't know.
I think I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. I think it's one of the best ones. Yeah.
That's funny.
All right, gentleman, right.
So your work has made a huge impact on the culture. How does the Nightmare legacy affect your daily lives now? Any of you? Yeah.
I think the camaraderie and the length of time and the hard work, you know, when we were young actors, the whole environment was very competitive. But then you cut to, you know, a decade, 2, 3 later, and we have each other and we have such great friendships. It's really something to walk away from Hollywood. Because I used to say, to make a friend on every shoot would be a good movie. Just one friend. And you don't always do that. And we have essentially a family. Anytime, I'm sure, you know, that's the gift that gives us. And then also you and your children, and, you know, growing up, when you hear somebody saw it at 8, 9, 10 years old, there's such impressionable years and stuff. And it's very nice that you all are here for us. You know, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably older than most people in this room, but what I've seen is that the way our movie, but also other movies, have really changed the culture is that love of film and love of particular characters is now so mainstream. I don't think when I was little, someone would say like, oh, what's your favorite horror movie, or what's your favorite character in a movie? I don't think that we were so centered around entertainment and TV and movies. And when I see what Freddy Krueger has done, like now, that's the way people get together, and that's the way people form bonds, and that's the way people pick their mates, you know, like if they don't both love horror, how's it ever gonna work out? Like I've met 2 or 3 people tonight who are like, yeah, my boyfriend doesn't really love horror, but I'm getting him there, you know, I'm working on it. So it's something that it's now kind of like, it's like one of your attributes, like you like this and you like Freddy Krueger and you like Nightmare 3 Best, and it makes who you are, and I totally get it, but a lot of people don't get that, you know. I mean, when we're here in the safety of the Hilton, Minneapolis, and then we can all be ourselves, and everybody can like really let it all hang out and just like profess your undying love for Pinhead, and there's not many places in the world where you can do that, and it's getting more and more places because of horror and Freddy Krueger, but I like seeing people be themselves, and I love people not having to like keep hidden like what they truly love, and so for me, like talking to somebody about how much they love Nightmare on Elm Street makes me really see that person for who they are 100%, and they're not hiding anything from me, and I just love that about our, you know, this culture that we now live in is about that. And I don't relate to a lot of people who watch TV because I don't watch as much as other people, so I find myself like on the outside of a lot of conversations, but when it gets to horror, I can totally like jump in and talk about it.
The one thing that I feel about Nightmare on Elm Street is that I give Chuck a little credit, is before we shot the movie, he brought all of us Dream Warriors, all of the kids together. So before we did that first scene, we had been together a couple of times. So we was friends before we got to the set. But the thing about Nightmare 3, for me, is that it reached some of everything. It reached the homeless, it reached the mental disturbed, it reached everything was in that movie. If you go back and really watch that movie, it touches everything, it's universal. And one thing that I do love about it is that we don't see each other every day or every week, and sometimes we don't see each other the whole year, but when we do get together, it's like we just saw each other yesterday. And that's what makes family to me. It's because we had a bond, and we kept that bond, and we still keep that bond. So when you see us together, you really do, you know, instead of those 5 hands, you see a fist together. And that's what Nightmare on Elm Street together was. When we got to the point that we couldn't help our friends, we came together as one, and we started knocking shit down to face Freddy Krueger and to face our fears, and that's what we did.
So Mark Patton's not real quiet about how he felt about sort of being on set and some things that happened and being a young actor and stuff like that. And I know it's kind of hard for some actors to talk shit, but was there anything that happened? You were such young people when you took this role. Was there anything that was like kind of out of the ordinary, or you weren't expecting, or was kind of rough on you, or anything like that?
Did you see his documentary?
I have not yet, and I kind of...
Okay, what is it called?
Scream Queen.
Scream Queen. Okay, so it's an incredible documentary. And the one difference that he and I had, because of course I would watch it that way, he had a dream. And his dream was to be an actor. And that's really to me what that film is about, is that I had a dream, and he hit the mark. Like, he was on Broadway doing incredible work with Cher and being uber fabulous. And then I think you could say that the director of Nightmare 2 is a ding dong. I think you could say it, right? I didn't say it. But I mean, to really go from really having a dream and then have someone almost not even see you, to me was so is the words incendiary? Where it just, incendiary. Like it just made me so mad. It was like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's all over my head. It was such a phenomenal documentary. I thought, and I also thought it would be really good to do a documentary with everybody and just have their own particular one, and then that way, like a chorus of voices, you know, especially in today's times. I Am Nancy and Never Sleep Again documentary, I think are phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And I think Never Sleep Again really backs up what he is really talking about. So that's, you know, but everybody should see Scream Queen. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, and I really, really want to. You know, I don't feel like I ever experienced anything on a Nightmare set that was, that ever made me feel the way that Mark might express the way he felt. You know, first of all, we did it in 5 weeks, and it was really fast, and I was working literally every minute of every day. There just wasn't enough time to think about anything except your lines and doing the work. And so the Nightmare 1 was just kind of a lightning in the bottle. And Nightmare 3, I felt that everybody was such good friends. And, you know, I didn't know that, you know, Patricia Arquette at times, she was hypoglycemic and she would, need a candy bar, and we'd run around looking for, candy bar for her or something, and she wasn't feeling good, and people would gather around, or, you were feeling bad about something, and we would always, rush to each other to help. Nobody ever seemed to be outcast on that. And same with Nightmare 7. I just feel really lucky, because it doesn't always happen that way. But, yeah, I feel for Mark, because what he was doing was kind of an impossible task. I mean, he was playing in a horror sequel. There'd never been a sequel to this movie before. Sequels didn't really exist in horror. It was something that Bob Shea was kind of making, the fly of his pants, just by the seat of his pants, making this crazy sequel to a Freddy Krueger movie. And so I think in a way it didn't have the respectability at first, because no one knew it that was being done. And I think a lot of that uncertainty kind of probably came up in the set too. We didn't really know whether to make it funny or whether to make it, weird or make it scary.
Yeah, they didn't understand the monster.
And they didn't understand the monster yet. They thought that the house was the thing that was going to be haunted. They didn't know that Freddy, how he was going to be. And that worked itself out in 3, and then on and on and on. But that second movie was just kind of like a strange, the pancake that's not quite perfectly brown,
Yeah. And also too, I didn't have a dream like he had a dream. There's some people who have a very specific dream. I want to be this. I was I want to get an apartment. You're gonna get one of those anyway. But you have to do something, and then it just fell into things. Oh, thank God.
Gorgeous, yeah.
I'm yeah, it's just oh, thank God, oh, thank God, oh, thank God. So that's why I really feel for him, because I don't know, I was told not to do it, the movie. Back then, horror had a stigma to it, and not only he had the dream, but the stigma, and then the ding-dongs, just so.
Hey, anybody else got any questions here? Or?
So Heather, is tonight your last night here? Or you're here
Tomorrow
tomorrow
night,
too?
yeah, tomorrow night is I leave at 9 o'clock.
Or maybe I leave at 7 o'clock, so I'll be here all day tomorrow.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Gentleman right in the back there.
So you talked a little bit earlier about we're in a time now where we can celebrate our fandoms and our geekdoms and our nerddoms that we used to have to hide because we get our asses kicked or whatever is now mainstream. So I want to turn that around. What are your geekdoms, fandoms, things that you